Hi everybody, this is Miss Carballo, and today I'm going to talk about congruent and similar figures and what you need to know for this topic for this week. So congruent figures you should have learned about in elementary school. You might remember them. They are exactly the same size and same shape. So these are congruent to each other, and these two check marks are congruent because they are the same size and same shape. This is the symbol. So one little squiggly over equal sign means congruent. Okay. Similar figures have the same exact shape, but not necessarily the same size. So these are the two really important things that you need to remember about similar figures. Their corresponding angles are congruent. That means equal, so their angles are equal, but their corresponding sides are in proportion. So congruent angles, same exact congruent angles, sides in proportion, and this is the symbol for it, just one little squiggly mark. That means similar. Okay, so this angle right here, if these two triangles are similar to each other, their angles are equal. Like this is a 90-degree angle and so is this. So their angle measures are equal to each other, even though this triangle is much bigger than this one. And their sides have to be in proportion. So if this is a 5 inches and this one is 10 inches, that means it's growing by a scale factor of 2, and that needs to happen on the bottom. So if this is only 3 inches, then the corresponding side has to be 6 inches for it to be similar. If this was 7, these two figures are not similar. So sides in proportion, angles congruent. That's the two big things to remember. Let's go to the next part of your notes. So corresponding means that they're matching in the same place on the figure. So if these two figures are similar figures, then we can talk about their sides corresponding to each other and their angles corresponding to each other. So in this one, we have this blue mark and this blue mark, that means that those angles correspond to each other. And if they're similar figures, they're equal. Same thing with this angle corresponds here and this angle corresponds here, but you're not always going to have colors to show the differences. So sometimes there's other ways that we're going to write which sides are corresponding. So this is highlight the corresponding matching sides with the same color highlighter. So if you have different colors available with you right now, you can do that. But if we're going to say that this side AC corresponds to this side, that's all I mean by using the same color. So this side corresponds to this side, and then this side corresponds to this side. Corresponding does not mean congruent, especially if the figures are similar, then they're obviously not equal to each other. This one's a little bit more obvious. So this is corresponding. This side corresponds to HG. That does not mean they're equal. Look how much bigger that one is. But they're in the same spot on the other figure. Angles can be shown in different ways. So you will either see these little curves, which we saw in some examples above. So like if C goes with E, then there might be one curve there and one curve here. And then the other ones might have 2. And these are corresponding and congruent, so they're going to have 3. And usually you will see, sometimes you'll see it with like a line. So like if this one has 1, then this one would have 2. Sometimes you'll see them that way. But angles in similar figures are equal to each other and congruent. So these are corresponding and congruent. If I tell you that this is 50 degrees, then G is 50 degrees. That's an important part to remember about similar figures and congruent. All right, let's go to your next page on these notes. So now we're going to look at writing similarity statements. So we can write similarity statements for sides, angles, or the entire polygon, but remember that the order that you write the letters in is important. So corresponding polygons, so triangle, and it doesn't matter which letter I start with for the first one. So if I start with B and then I go to A and then I go to C, which doesn't matter the order on the first one, it will matter when I write the second one. So if these two figures are similar, so let's write our similar. That's not a good similar. Okay, so let's see. Similar to, so that's BAC, EDF, because the B and the E go together. So I want that to be the first letter. Then the D goes with the A. And then the F goes with the C. They match up in the order, so you have to put them in the same order when you write the other side. Corresponding sides of the triangle, so BA, I'll just pick BA. And it's a side, and it is corresponds to. So there's no symbol that you're going to put here. You could just write corresponds to, and that's hard to read, but it says corresponds to. ED. So we're going to put ED, and those two sides are corresponding. Angles. So there's a symbol that you might see like this for angle. So if I say angle B, what does angle B correspond to? Angle E. It's in the same order on the other one. So angle B corresponds to angle E. Okay, now let's go down here to practice corresponding sides and angles. So triangle ABC is similar to PQR, and there's the picture right over here. But a big hint is that when I give you the letters like this, I can just look at the order of the letters and see which sides are corresponding to each other. For example, line AC is similar to AC, so that's the first letter and the third letter, PR on the other side. So all I'm looking at, I didn't even look at the triangle, I just looked at the order of the letters that I gave you in the problem. PQ, so P is the first letter, Q is the second, A is the first, B is the second. So PQ matches up with AB, you have to do it in the same order. And then RQ, so that's third, second, third, CB, can't be BC. Angles are the same, so P is the first one, it corresponds to angle A. And then C corresponds to R. And then B corresponds to Q. So if Q is 48 degrees, then what do we know B has to be? 48 degrees. Even if this figure was bigger, they have the same angle measures. If C is 32 degrees, then R is 32 degrees because they are corresponding, they're equal to each other. How can I determine if two figures are similar? I'm going to do in a separate video, but that's pretty much how you make similarity statements with similar and congruent figures and which sides correspond to each other. This is going to be a lot of geometry help in the next couple of years, but that's all you got to know for similar and congruent for this year. Watch the next video that's going to be on using proportions to find if two figures are similar to each other. Thank you. Hope that helped.